أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وتراجمة لوحيه. Before I begin, I wanted to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He accepts everyone's efforts during the holy month of Ramadan, and to give condolences to everyone on the attacks that we are seeing on our brothers and sisters, and also condolences on the great shahadat and the other shahadats that we have given uh, by the shuhada. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless their souls and hasten the repentance of our 12th Imam to bring the perpetrators to justice. Our line that we are discussing is وَتَرَاجِمَةً لِوَحْيِهِ, meaning, and Allah chose you to be the explainers of His revelation. This extremely long section, we've tried our best to condense it as much as possible. Tarajim is the plural of tarjuman, from the root tarjama, which means to explain and elucidate some speech or words, and wahi means to communicate something very quickly and secretly, and mostly referred to divine revelation. When you say wahi, mostly it refers to divine revelation. So Ahlulbayt alayhimus salam and the Imams of Ahlulbayt alayhimus salam, they are the explainers of the revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We discussed that there have been many efforts that have unfortunately got into the books of our Sunni Muslims, which devalues and lowers the position of the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Why had this been done? All of this is done. Why? To lower the status of his great personality, to put doubt on his infallibility, to completely wash over and deny what the Qur'an says, where it says, وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ, that he never speaks of his own desire. It is nothing but revelation that is revealed to him. So in order to cast doubt upon all of that and on his great personality, and to defend their own actions, the rulers of the time, starting from the first Khalifa onwards, they paid people, they had people to make up Ahadith, and then they also banned the transmission and writing of the Ahadith which was in the memory of people. We're going to discuss all of this more today. They wanted to show a picture of the Prophet that what he was doing was based on his personal happiness or sadness, on his personal likes and dislikes, on his love and hate of someone, and this was all a personal thing. That he can even curse people, pray against them, but then he calms down, he regrets what he has said, and then he asks Allah to make his curse into a mercy for them. Imagine, Prophet curses someone, but they say this curse was not a curse, it was actually a mercy. Some people may make an excuse and say, yes, but this was all done during the time of their kufr, not during their faith. In other words, that these rulers at one point, apart from Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salam, of course, the best of the best, the other rulers, they were kafir at one point, then they accepted Iman. So some people may say this was all done during the days of kufr, not after their faith. We say in that case, there is no need to regret, for the Prophet to regret what he said. It stands as valid, and there is no need to change it to mercy, because once a person leaves kufr and shirk and embraces Islam and Iman, all those curses become null and void. So what are you talking about? If it was during their times of kufr, then there is no need to change it into mercy and forgiveness, etc. Now we come on to the very dark period in history, which is the issue of burning hadiths. Yes, we have the issue of, in history, hadiths were actually actively gathered and burned. We have narrations that say that Abu Bakr burned hadiths, but more than him, Umar burned many hadiths which had been written and recorded by people. And to justify this, of course, there is a report, surprise, surprise, by who? By Abu Huraira. Let me summarize these two reports for you, and then we continue the discussion. Umar became aware that people had been holding written materials. He then made it very, very strict, and he put a lot of emphasis that people should not that anyone who has possession of anything written should bring it to him so that he can view it and give his view on it. The people thought that he was doing this for a good reason, so then they brought him all of their written materials. Umar gathered them all and put them all to fire, and he said the following: this is all part of the umniya. We discussed this last time. This is part of the umniya, like the umniya of the Ahl Kitab. And he also sent messages to different cities that they should all bring their written materials and that they should be destroyed. This is report number 1. Report number 2. This is from, surprise, surprise, Abu Huraira, who narrates this from the Holy Prophet. Of course, this is a false narration, but this is what he says. One day, the Holy Prophet came to us and we were busy writing Hadith. He said, "What is this that you are writing?" We replied, "These are Ahadiths, these are Ahadith that we have heard from you." He said, "Do you mean that there is a written thing other than the book of God that you are writing? Do you not know that the previous nations before you did such a thing and they were misguided as a result? You should know that you should know that they also gathered writings apart from the revelation of God, and hence they were misguided." We said, "But these are hadiths from you. Is it the same case?" He said, "To narrate hadith is not a problem. However, someone who intentionally says a lie and attributes it to me, his place will be in hell." And then the hadith continues, and then whatever we had in our possession, we gathered it together and we put it into the fire. Imagine Abu Huraira is narrating hadith, which is mostly lies, and then he includes this part as well. How ironic that the Prophet has said, "Whoever attributes a lie to me, his place is in the fire." I mean, these people didn't have any shame, really. And anyway, let us continue our discussion now that you have these two reports in front of you. So it's very easy to discredit all of this by saying that, okay, if that's the case, if the Holy Prophet really did say this, and Abu Huraira has narrated this, and if this is really the case, then how come the first caliph and the second caliph had collections of hadiths in their presence? Because they also had collections. They also said, "We have these collections of hadith." So if that's the case, that the Prophet told all his companions that make sure you destroy all of this, and this led to the misguidance of previous nations, then why did Abu Bakr and Umar have collections in their presence after the Prophet, and during their time they put fire to them? Why then did Umar, as we've discussed in previous sessions, when he was doing all of this kind of gathering of hadith and burning them, why did he spend 1 month thinking over the matter? He consulted the different companions, they gave him their view, he then spent 1 month thinking about it. And then he concluded that, yes, I need to burn all of this. What took him 1 month to think about if the Holy Prophet had given this order, as narrated by Abu Huraira? Why did other people who had hadith in their possession, how come they didn't know about this? In that 1 month, when Umar was thinking about it, why did Abu Huraira not come along and say, "Hang on a second, Umar, why are you thinking about this? I have a hadith from the Prophet which says we should destroy the hadith. He told me this in his blessed lifetime." Why did the first caliph have 500 hadiths in his possession? And why did the rest of the ummah in these far-flung cities all have these hadiths with them? And Umar had to send a message that make sure you gather these together and they should be burned. It becomes apparent that this man, this Abu Huraira, in order to justify what the first caliph and second caliph were doing, made this up. It's possible that someone says, "Hang on a second, maybe the Prophet said this in private to Abu Huraira, And those few companions who were there at the time, only they heard it and no one else heard it. And Abu Bakr and Umar, they didn't know about this. We say, okay, in that case, it's very strange that the Prophet would say such an important matter that misguided, as you claim, previous nations to only one person or a few people in private. Surely this is something that needs to be said to everybody. This is not something that is just a personal matter to Abu Huraira and those few people. Surely this is not something where you're trying to protect someone's honor that you would say it in private. This is something that would be said to everybody publicly because it is such a serious matter. Another point we can bring here is that, okay, if you say that this was said in private, well, you yourselves claim that Abu Bakr and Umar were so close to the Prophet, weren't they? That in your claim that they were always with the Prophet. So if that's the case, then how come they didn't know? Surely they would have been the first ones to know they were so close to him and they were so chummy with him. And you say that they were doing everything on his behalf and he would not do anything except that he would consult these people and he would keep them so close. Well, it looks like they didn't have even basic knowledge of something like this that you claim is so serious. Especially you claim that it was such an issue that had plagued the people of the book in the past, the Ahl Kitab in the past. So these claims are really unacceptable and we can easily answer them and we can actually prove that this is nothing but fabrication. Now, let us remind ourselves now that we've reached this point, why are we discussing all of this? 3 points. Please bear these in mind throughout these sessions, that what we are trying to do is we are trying to highlight the following 3 points. Number one, that there has been a colossal loss of hadith, especially among Sunni literature, that they lost so many ahadith. We, the Shias, alhamdulillah, we still had our Imams with us, but the Sunnis have to admit that there was a massive loss of hadith. Number two, as a result of all of this, unfortunately, what has happened is it gave an image to the people that these pure members of Ahlulbayt alayhimus salam were at the same level as the evil ones, by bringing their level down, by making up hadiths about them, by lowering the level of the Prophet, by boosting the level of the rulers. Unfortunately, this false image was given, and it is still there today, that somehow these were all equal people. They were all good people. Yes, they made mistakes here and there, but they were all decent people. For example, when you go to Masjid an-Nabawi, many people, our Shias, unfortunately, they go to Masjid an-Nabawi and there's a place where apparently there's these discs, these round things, on which there's written the names of the companions, and also apparently the names of our 12 Imams are also there. And our Shias kind of become so happy. They say, oh, see, look, our Imams are there. What are you talking about? How dare they place our Imams even on the same thing as the other Ashab? This is not something to be happy about. This is a trick. This is something that they want us to understand, to try and fool us, to say, yeah, they were all good. They were all on the same level. If one is good, the other is good. They're all, may God be pleased with them. No, our Imams are of a loftier position. They don't belong on the same level as those other names. So that was number two. Number three, they have hammered into the minds of people, and our own people are victim to this, that make only Qur'an as the source of guidance and not hadiths. Somehow, through all of this different manipulation and different things that they did, and the burning and the forging and all of this kind of thing, they wanted people to understand that, look, actually, Qur'an is the only source of guidance, not hadith of Ahlul Bayt, because they were just normal people. They were nothing special. Their words are not anything special. We have lots of issues in hadith, and therefore this clouds everyone's judgment. So this is the unfortunate heavy loss. These 3 points represent the heavy loss that we have gone through in history because of distancing Ahlul Bayt from their rightful position. In any case, to conclude our discussion so far, Agha says the following. He says, when we gather all the evidence, we can see that the prohibition of narrating hadith began with Abu Bakr, as did the burning of them. Umar then intensified this, even going to the extent of punishing people, even prohibiting other companions from narrating the words of the Prophet. And at the time, the only ones who were permitted to narrate were the ones who were in favor of the government and whose forgeries helped the government. Then, in the time of Usman and Muawiyah, traditions were narrated which were then again sanitized, which did not pose a danger to them and their position and their rulership, meaning basically the same kind of sayings that were deemed acceptable during the reigns of Abu Bakr and Umar. So they all come from one kind of mindset, sometimes more intense, sometimes less intense, but the mindset is the same, that we will forge a hadith, we will attribute lies, we will diminish the position of Ahlulbayt, we will promote the position of companions and rulers, and we will try and show that they are all fallible, good kind of people, all of the same level. Why? In order to diminish their role and leading to the 3 points that I mentioned earlier. We still have a couple of discussions left in this section, in this line. One is the role of Muawiyah, one is the role of Aisha, and one is the whole kind of, I wanted to do a whole kind of overview of hadith from Shia point of view, Sunni point of view, the collection, the recording, etc. Inshallah, I'll try to do that in a recorded session, as well as the parts on Muawiyah and Aisha. I think I'll stop here and we'll take any questions if that's okay. Salam Shaykhan alaikum assalam. The hadith of Thaqalain is also there in Sunni books. So why don't they follow it likewise as Shias? Yeah, they have two versions of Hadith al-Thaqalain. One is Book of Allah and my Sunnah, and one is Book of Allah and my Ahlul Bayt. So they would say we are following Ahlul Bayt. That's unfortunately what they would say, that we are following Ahlul Bayt. We don't have a problem with Ahlul Bayt. And whatever problems there are, it's you guys who have caused the problems. This is how they would basically, in summary, this is a very deep kind of question, but this is what they would say basically, that yes, we love Ahlul Bayt and we respect them. But as I said in previous sessions, loving and respecting even a Hindu will do, even a non-Muslim will do, even an atheist will have some respect for Ahlul Bayt possibly. So what? To follow Ahlul Bayt means you have to have the wilayat of Ahlul Bayt, and wilayat of Ahlul Bayt means you have to come under the authority of Ahlul Bayt. This is the main thing. Another question, wasn't hadith used by Abu Bakr to deprive Bibi Fatima alayha salam of fadak? So they used hadith as suited them rather than consistently. Yes, very good point. They did use hadith as and when it suited them. And even then, that hadith Bibi proved that it was not suitable for that issue. And even that hadith, she showed that it had problems, and even that one was, falsified. Because in that hadith, what Abu Bakr claimed was that I heard the Prophet say that we, the Prophets, don't leave any inheritance. So she proved that no, actually, the Qur'an shows that Prophets do leave inheritance. They have made the Ahlul Bayt way more members than what the word means according to the Shia, right? Also, do Sunnis believe in tabarra or only tawalla? Their actions don't show tabarri, although it is Quranic. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. They have expanded the application of Ahlul Bayt is what you mean. So they would say, for example, that the women, the wives of the Prophet are Ahlul Bayt, and possibly even more people are Ahlul Bayt. So yes, they do, unfortunately, but that's still, they would still say, yeah, but we're still respecting the ones you claim are Ahlul Bayt. They'll say Imam alayhi salam was a great person and Bibi Fatima was a beloved of the Prophet and Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein were beloved of the Prophet. We don't look at it like that. We look at Ahlul Bayt as something beyond time, not just Ahlul Bayt of the Prophet in a physical house. If you remember our very first or second session, we discussed the meaning of Ahlulbayt. Ahlulbayt doesn't mean those who belong to a house of bricks and mortar. Ahlulbayt belongs to the house of prophethood, not house of the prophet. House of prophethood. In other words, they share the characteristics of prophethood. That's a profound discussion. If someone can understand that, then everything else becomes very, very easy to understand. Do they believe in tabarra or only tawalla? If they say they believe in tabarra, maybe they'll say, yeah, we have tabarra towards shaitan or Fir'aun or something like that. I don't know. I can't really say much more than this. For munafiqeen, tawalli and tabarri is opposite as compared to mu'mineen. Yes, very possibly, unfortunately. Look, we have to bear in mind one thing. The average Sunni that you encounter, we can't blame them, although definitely uh, it saddens us. It definitely saddens us, but we can't blame them because they are just lay people. We don't lay any blame on them. We lay the blame on the history, the early khulafa, the early forgers, those who sold their religion for cheap, and definitely the scholars of that school of thought, those who are culpable. Yes, we definitely blame them. Yeah. The question
Well,
is, so why are Sunni hadith books called Sahih? Well, some of them are called Sahih, and we have to ask them why. They believe that, definitely six of them are Sahih. It's very confusing. If you think about what they say we have all these hadith books, six of them are Sahih, meaning correct. But two of them are more Sahih than the others. So that's the first strange comment. What do you mean? Six are Sahih, but two are more. And then from the two, one is more. We leave it to them to explain that one. That's a conundrum that I can't work out. And then
so
finally, I'm not here to give my opinion, but I'll give you the opinion of our scholars. All our scholars are unanimous that there is only one book which is 100% authentic, and that is the book of God, the Holy Quran. Every other book, whether it's Nahju Balagha, Biharul Anwar, we don't say it's 100% authentic. However, that is our biggest brilliant opinion amongst the scholars, because all of the hadith we have, there are some non-infallibles involved in narrating the hadith. So we have to be honest and say when there's a non-infallible involved in any endeavor, he may be a brilliant person, but he is fallible. He's not an infallible. So there could be something that has crept in that is not authentic. The people who wrote the books, they are not infallible. So there could be something that has crept in that is not authentic. But the brilliant thing that our scholars have done is they have the amazing genius minds to go in and look at those hadiths and highlight them for us and say, this one is not authentic. This one is not authentic. This one can be used, for example, in fiqh. This one cannot be used in fiqh. This one can be used for historical analysis. This one can be used in Qur'an tafsir, for example. So they have brilliantly categorized and they have gone through, and each generation of scholars does this. And yes, you may find some questionable things in our books of hadith, but the scholars have already come, looked at that, rejected it, or given an explanation that, look, this one is not to be taken literally. This one is to be taken in context of this. This one was said because of that. So they have very nicely given us our explanations. Please do not ever think that, oh, because our hadith books are not 100% authentic, that means our hadith do not have any meaning and they do not have any significance for us. No, they are not. One collection of hadith may not be 100% authentic in the whole collection, but there are many authentic things in there which we can benefit from, and our scholars have taught us how. So that was our latest installment on this line from Ziyarat Jamia. وتراجمة لوحيه والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.